Hey, welcome inside Zippy's Garage. In today's episode, we're taking a ride in the C7 Corvette. We're headed out to Carlisle, Pennsylvania to GM Nationals Car Show. So stick around. Hey folks, thanks for pushing that play button. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jeff Zippity Doodah, and this YouTube channel is dedicated to the fun and games associated with being a car enthusiast. So if that sounds something you like, please consider subscribing and smash that thumbs up button. Tell your friends about the channel as well. So like I said in that quick introduction, we're going to take a ride out to the GM Nationals Car Show, which is out in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, the host of Corvettes at Carlisle. But this car show is dedicated to everything made by General Motors. So it's a really cool show where you get to capture a little bit of everything from GM. And I had every intention of jumping on a golf cart, riding around the fairgrounds and capturing a lot of what was out there. But quite frankly, did not have a lot of time this time around because I was working one of the booths out there for the Chip Miller Amyloidosis Charitable Foundation, which I'm a board member of. So spent a lot of time out at the booth and then had to head home early on Saturday. And actually, while I was out there on Saturday, picked up a new exhaust system for the C7 Corvette, which I'll put a photograph of it down here below. So I was fortunate enough to get a discontinued Akrapovic exhaust system that includes the X-pipe. So there'll be some video about that installation here coming up shortly. So like I said, what I did capture though was a garage tour of the Miller family Corvette collection, or car collection per se, which is right there off the fairgrounds. So I'm going to put in some of the footage that I did capture from GM Nationals. Got a lot of really cool coverage of the third generation Camaros, as well as them doing a parade through the fairgrounds. So I'll be sure to put that in here as well. But then the majority of this video is going to be coverage from the Chip Miller, or the Lance Miller, the Miller family car collection. So we're going to do a garage tour with them, and I come in just as Lance is starting to talk about the collection itself. So stick around for a video tour of the Miller family Corvette collection, and then also a little bit of coverage from GM Nationals of this year, 2022. I will put a link in the description below from my GM Nationals coverage from last year, from 2021, where I did jump on that golf course or golf cart and ride around the show field. So without any further ado, let's head out to Carlisle. All right, so as promised, Building T is one of the indoor showroom areas here where they have a lot of the specialty vehicles. And if you follow Lance Miller or Carlisle events on Facebook, I highly recommend it. He did this the other day during setup, and they've got a Gen 3 Camaro and Trans Am setup inside here, and some of these cars are just absolutely beautiful. Just an unbelievable display. I don't know where you would see this nice collection of vehicles anywhere else. I'll be sure to capture all four sides here, left, right, both aisles here, with some absolutely beautiful third generation Camaros. You got the Z28, you got the IROC Z.
unfortunately, it was the last race that Dale Sr. survived the race in as well. So that's the sad part of the story. But nevertheless, just a great car. It's funny because everybody you talk to always says, I have a model of this car. It's by far the #1 seller of any Corvette model out there is this particular car. My dad just lusted after this thing. In fact, GM, going through the process of buying these cars, it's like a bidding process. And what they did was keep bumping the rate up on him. And they were trying to sell the car to Earnhardt Jr. as well at the same time. He didn't want the car, mainly due, from what I understand, was he was getting truckloads of stuff from his father's estate and just didn't need more stuff. So this would just be one more thing that he didn't need. So on that note, my dad ended up with it and he was ecstatic. He sold an L88, 69 L88 Corvette to get into this car. Actually, it's on the wall over there, the white one. And that car's actually been around quite a bit as well. But nevertheless, great car, lots of great history, and it's so fun to take this thing out and just answer questions and what have you. I had it out in Detroit last week, and I had it out in Bloomington Gold the week before that, so I've been bouncing around with it quite a bit. It was in the museum for, probably 2 years as well, so it's pretty cool to have it back and be able to look at it a little bit. So cool stuff. And #3 just kind of pops up. You'll see it on a lot of these cars. It's not that we're hunting for 3, it just pops up. It really does. So right above it, #3. Again, this was the championship car of the Challenge Series.
And Lance, before you get up to the Challenge car, there's a special signature on the passenger side airbag of this #3 car, right?
There's a couple signatures on there, yeah.
Well, what about Mr. Junior?
What about him?
When did he sign this thing?
Oh, he signed it down at Amelia Island.
Yeah. And,
Jerry Kiefer actually had him sign it.
Right.
I think, Michael did, Scott Michaels.
And that was one of the first time he'd seen the car since then. So
Exactly. And I heard it was an awesome story. Unfortunately, I missed that due to the fact that I flew down right after. They didn't tell me they were going to be doing all this stuff.
When was that?
With Junior. That was at Amelia Island 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, and I flew down, the day before.
Yeah, we flew down the day after.
Great timing on my part.
Yeah.
So I didn't even get to see him down there, but nevertheless, it was still neat to have him sign the dash. And I think Doug's on there. Doug
Fien's on there.
Gary was the one that was the GM marketing person, but he was the guy that helped facilitate the deal with the car. So it was pretty cool to have him sign it as well. So yeah, neat car. So can I go up here now?
Yes, go up there now. Sorry.
All right. I'll go up here now. So Corvette Challenge Series, it was done in '88 and '89. The only '88 we have is the number 33, which I swear to God, we aren't after threes. So that was the poster child car, which is somewhere over there on the wall in the back. And they used that car to promote the whole series. So we always thought it was kind of neat to have that particular car as part of our collection because we love the Challenge Series. So that car was actually in flames about 20, 25 feet high, believe it or not. So it's been totally reshelled and put back to the way it raced. This car was the end, so the bookend of it was this particular car won the entire series. So this was the championship winning car driven by Bill Cooper in '89. So really well-known car and well-established. And it's funny because every challenge car, which I've driven probably at least 10 of them, this car drives totally different than the rest of them, which is kind of interesting. So these were supposed to be very much spec and exactly the same. I can tell you one thing, this thing shifts totally different than any Corvette I've ever shifted. It's like butter, and they put the car away prior to it finishing the entire series because it was in such good condition. So it wrapped up the series early on, so it was a special car. So you can see it's kind of warped in the back. You know, this is the way it raced. I mean, this is it. Obviously, the wheels are a little bit nicer than they would after a race. But nevertheless, then in '89, you're going to see an '89 right above you guys. That one was one of two that was never raced. And that car is real special to me. Basically, every mile on that car was split by my dad and myself, whether it be a parade or whatever it was, just going out and kind of playing with the car, zipping around the fairgrounds. We'd take turns. So real special car to me, and to me, like, that's my ultimate car just because of the history of, you know, hanging out with my dad and having a good time. Something that, you know, you cherish forever. Underneath it, Peter, do you want to talk about this one?
And it's just a plain Carlisle blue. Doesn't really catch the eye.
Why is it called Carlisle Blue?
Why?
Yeah.
Because Chevrolet decided to do something to honor Corvette's a Carlisle.
For what anniversary? I'm testing.
30th.
Oh, he's on it. He's got one as well. So we're picking on Peter today.
Mine has a stripe though, it's much prettier.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
This is amazing. My car is best car. I understand.
Yeah.
So yes, Carlisle Blue was the 30th anniversary. They surprised us with Carlisle Blue. Shortly after my dad's passing, I got to know the Chevrolet team pretty well, and I like to heckle people, as you can probably tell. And Chevrolet was, I had no mercy on them. I said, guys, we need to do some type of tribute for Corvettes and Carlisle. So I was hoping for a tribute car. So I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Well, finally at SEMA, it was probably 2 years prior to doing this car, 2 or 3 years, they said, hey, you're gonna have your own color. Basically lay off us, you know, you got your own color now. So I'm like, well, what color is it? You know, they chose it. So they said it's gonna be Carlisle Blue. And you know, we'll unveil it later down the road. We just wanted to let you know. So I kind of forgot about it, to be honest. And then all of a sudden it leaked and people knew exactly what it was. Carlisle Blue, they leaked all the colors prior and it became a big deal in the Corvette world, and it was pretty cool and quite an honor. So it's obviously neat to have the car. So of course I ordered a ZR1 like immediately with no stripes.
How long of a wait list?
I wasn't that long of a wait list, so I was good. And the funny thing is, I think there were 11.
You didn't wait long for your car out, they weren't making any.
Yeah, it was, and it's just cool. I mean, it's a neat piece of history. The funny thing is, the very first time I got in that car, I go to fire it up. Now it gives you the little blurb beforehand.
So Chevrolet or Corvette by Chevrolet,
Exactly.
right, is what it's supposed to say.
They changed mine, and it said Ella Corvette's future ride or something. So I've left it in there. It still says that.
still in there.
And Ella claims this car, by the way. She loves this car. That's her favorite car. Every time I talk to her, I say, "What's your favorite car?" Carlisle Blue. So it's like an immediate response.
Now, I went down and saw mine being built. Did you see yours built too?
Absolutely not. I did not.
How many Carlisle Blues were made?
How many were there? Do you know off the top of your head?
Total 526 or something.
Yeah, and I think there were like 11 ZR1s.
And
So-
fewer Z06s.
Yeah, it was real low numbers.
Yeah.
But and to be honest, like I thought when I saw the color, I was like, oh, that's not gonna look very good on a Corvette, especially if Peter has one. But I then got past that. So yeah, I love the
It's
color
a nice
now.
girly color, they tell me.
It is girly,
Yeah.
but I love it. I mean, I really do. I think it looks really good and kind of sinister at the same time. So cool car. So above another challenge car, if you guys aren't getting sick of challenge cars yet, that was a car that my dad and I raced together a lot. So the one in front of it is one that we played with on parades and that type of stuff. So that one has a cheater motor in it, bigger brakes, just a fun car to drive and kind of beat on. So always just fun to tear out in these cars. They really do handle well. The only downside with the challenge car is it's basically factory stock, so it's got a full, you know, entire interior in it where it's heavy. It's just, you know, they aren't super fast. The LEDs have plenty of torque in them, which I love driving on the track, but you know, the horsepower is pretty minimal. But overall, it's just a fun car to go out and play with. I do like the World Challenge cars in '90 that came out the year after, because they gutted them much lighter. You can put bigger brakes on them. So those are really fun to drive. Underneath it is a '59 Resto Mod Corvette, and I recently took that one on trade. It's an SR3 chassis, and just kind of a unique color. You either love it or hate it, orange. Definitely different coves. So I actually just want to drive it a little bit and have fun with it, because I drove it around the fairgrounds a couple times. I'm like, this thing is so fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. So I'm eager to kind of go out and play.
Is it a 5-speed?
It is. Yeah, thank goodness.
Who built
Yeah. Yeah. What's that? What?
Who built it?
Oh, SR3. It was actually that company that
Texas.
the builds. Yeah. Apparently. I'm learning about it. I really don't know much about it.
What's under the hood?
But it's fun. I knew you were going to
Yeah.
ask that. That's why I was lifting it up here. Man, that's a heavy stinking hood.
LS3.
No latch.
Yeah.
You like how I skirt over the Fords for you guys? So 63 Corvette. This was the last Corvette that my dad had purchased prior to his passing from amyloidosis, which you guys are supporting. Thank you. It was funny. He got a phone call. I was at my sister's house, and he's like, "Oh, listen to this car." And it's a 63 Corvette that's on the phone. And I'm like, "Dad, I can hear something, but you can't hear much. What do you think? Should I get it?" And I'm like, "What, Dad? What is it?" He's like, "Oh, it's a 63 Corvette, real low mile car, original owner, blah, blah, blah." You know, went over the whole thing. It's out in California. And his good friend, who's a big judge at NCRS, had told him about the car. And he said, "Chip, you need to own this car. It's that nice." He's like, "It's unbelievable." And you guys can see for yourselves, it's pretty magnificent. So I think it's got 11,000 miles on it.
Is it a Z06?
No, it is not. Yeah, I wish it were. That'd be
Got
nice.
the real long old man.
Yeah, yeah. Lower horsepower car.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a nice car, just virgin example. You can see the hash marks underneath. I mean, that's the way it was from the factory. Pretty amazing just to see it.
Is it black interior?
Yes, black interior. And I always love the silver. I mean, Sebring silver is beautiful.
What are the hash marks from? Is that from the manufacturing line?
Yep.
They put in there from?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, it's just neat stuff. So underneath it, the Ford I'm going to talk about, because I went to Le Mans in 2010 with the Le Mans car, the number 3, which I did sell. I was just telling this gentleman. Mainly due to the fact that I've pretty much done everything with the car that I've ever wanted to achieve, and I thought, you know what, it's time for it to move on to the next caretaker. And the next caretaker, fortunately for me, I was able to select. It was Erwin Croy, who's a dear friend of mine, big collector, and quite frankly, it's great because it's almost like I own the car still, because he's like, "I'll take it anywhere you need it. If you ever need the car, just call me. You got first right of refusal. If I ever sell it, it's yours." So I was like, okay, like this works. This is cool. So anyway, we took the car back to Le Mans. As many of you know, I hope you know that story with the Quest and all that fun stuff. Anyway, I'm there for Corvette, supporting Corvette, watching them, and Corvette did terrible in 2010, if you guys recall. I mean, it was horrible. Like, both cars blew up, it was pitiful. So it was like being in a morgue. I mean, honestly, it was that bad. It was very quiet. I mean, everybody was miserable. And I'm watching this car just dominate. I mean, just crushing it. And I fell in love with it. I literally kept watching it. I'm like, I love that car. I told my mom, actually. I'm like, someday I'm going to buy that car. Yeah, sure, Lance. Well, I kept after it, and it took me many years, but finally I was able to acquire the whole race team. There was actually 4 cars left, and we bought all 4. When I say we, I pulled in a partner, because quite frankly, I couldn't afford them. So I committed before all that because I had to own this car. I really wanted it. I love Ford GTs, as you guys can tell. I love GT40s. I like the history. And I'm not only a Corvette guy, I'm a car guy. I like them all. I really do. So I enjoyed my little 135 out there just driving back and forth. You know, it's just a cool car. It's got a bunch of mods. Cool for me. I enjoy it. So Ford GTs, on the other hand, are just, they're a blast to drive. I love the lineage. I love the story of Carroll Shelby. I love everything about it. And I think they really solidified that with Ford versus Ferrari, which is kind of neat. Hopefully everybody saw that. That was neat. Just cool. So yeah, I ended up getting this car, and now I end up shipping this thing all around too, because it seems like everybody wants this on display as well. So it's fun. I mean, you get to share the hobby and get to go to neat shows. So another Ford GT behind it. That's the Heritage Edition. I used to have a tungsten, and I had it forever. And I remember I had my daughter laying in the front hole right here, the inlet. And I always said, I'll never sell that car. I'll never sell that car. And never say never. I learned that through life. So this one, I always wanted a Heritage. So I figured I was selling a red one at the time. And the guy saw my tungsten. He's like, I want that car. I want that car. So I ended up selling it to him, and I'm like, what am I going to do now? Well, thank God I found one of these like right after and picked it up. So, and it was before everything went haywire. So I was very fortunate, and love these cars. They're just cool. Like I said, the history's awesome on it. This is a Boris Said driven Callaway Corvette. It was the only twin turbo Callaway race car that they ever built. Did absolutely horrendous at the track. It would always blow up. They just had problems with it all the time. In fact, the last time it ran, I remember Doug Rippey was the one that asked my dad, he's like, can I use this car? I just wanted to finish a race for us. Because it kept blowing up on them. And what happened was they, you know, BOP, they kept making them put more and more weight in it to make sure that the other cars could keep up. Basically, it's a very fast car, but it has a ton of ballast in it. I mean, it's ridiculous. So what happened was, most of the tracks they went to obviously has bumps, so it would enclose the exhaust, and obviously being a turbo car, if it can't breathe, it blew up. So that's what kept happening to it. So they finally figured it out the last race. Not much luck with that one, but it's just a cool car. Neat history.
Is that an 88?
No, it's actually a 91. Yeah.
Speaking of Callaway, what was the project
Oh,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
black one?
I blew over that one, didn't
Yeah,
I?
yeah.
Sorry.
I love this car.
I'm
It's a
slacking.
great story behind it.
So yeah, this is another story. Upon my dad's passing, I was thinking to myself, like, how can I get out there and kind of spread the word that I'm into cars? You know, everybody knew my dad. Everywhere I went, you know, he'd be talking to everybody all the time, which was cool. But at the same time, you know, I was just the guy that was in the coattails, just cruising along, you know, which is great. You know, I'm the son. But I decided, you know, the new C6 was coming out, you know, shortly after his passing, and I thought, you know what would be cool is if I bought a new car and actually had a bunch of people do work to it and enhance it. I wanted it to be in the 10-second range, stop well, handle well, what we all want, right? Except Peter. So, yeah, I'm busting your stone still.
I'm gonna key you, Kyle.
Yeah, I know. So this car, I talked to one magazine publisher, and I talked to him for, I don't know, probably a half an hour about what I want to do. And he's like, that's great. We're fully committed, but we want exclusive. I'm like, no exclusive. I'm like, I just want to get it out. Like, if you want to be a part of it, great. If not, that's cool. He's like, no, we'll be in. Don't worry. So I'm like, okay. Shook his hand, and he took off. And then I go to the bathroom, like, moments after, and Reeves Callaway comes running up to me, and he's like, we want to do the whole thing. And I'm like, what are you talking about, Reeves? We're doing the whole project. And I'm like, what project are you talking about? I don't know how he learned about this so fast, but it had to have been from this one guy that I spoke to, and it was that quick. We shook hands, and he did the project. So he knew exactly what I wanted. When it naturally aspirated into 10 seconds, it ran 10.76 in the quarter mile, and it's a healthy little car. It's cool, and it did its job. It got in every single Corvette magazine. There was one magazine, Corvette magazine, it didn't get in, and then it got on the cover later, which was pretty cool. So it was special. I probably had like 10 binders just stacked with stuff about this car. So what we did was take it all around the country. We drag raced it. We took autocrossing. We did so much with it. It was fun. So yes.
Cool marketing car,
That's
right?
his car.
Yeah.
Oh, it was definitely a neat marketing car. So it was their test and development. And it kind of brought Callaway back into the newer cars, which was neat. But you can tell we beat the living snot out of it. I mean, the car is not perfect by any means. In fact, I got to go through that thing and just play with it a little more. A little obnoxious to drive at this point, but it's all good. So I've been spoiled my whole life. My parents are like awesome, you know, and I was around like Candyland because I love cars too. So I was always surrounded by them, and I didn't always love cars because my dad would always push me away. We had a pinball machine down in our basement with like probably 20 cars, and I remember my dad just being like, "Don't do anything to the cars. Like, stay away from the cars." So it pushed me away, quite frankly. So I learned to almost hate cars in a sense, but then I started driving them and I was around them more, and then I fell in love even more so than I think I could ever be. So you guys know what that's all about, right? So, this particular car, the ZR1 above us, is a 95 ZR1, and my dad pretty well dangled a carrot to go to college. I wasn't sure I even wanted to go to college, quite frankly. I didn't think I was going to, because I was just like, I'm not a big school guy. I can't stand studying. So I told my parents, I'm like, I don't want to do college, And then my dad said, I'll buy you any car you want at the end once you graduate, which is insane. And of course I took the bait. So this was the reward, but it was such a cool reward. I still can't believe they did it. So I'm gonna save that car for my daughter when she graduates, if she decides to go to school. I'm not gonna pressure her, but I know she will, because she's the little bookworm.
Well, what recent accomplishment did Ella just get?
I don't know what, Jeff.
The National
Which one?
Junior Honor
Oh, that,
Society.
yeah.
So she's doing very well in school. So I think she's well on her way to college and graduating. So what kind of car is she going to want? We're going to see.
She likes bugs, of all things.
Nice. Old bugs or new bugs?
New.
Yeah.
Yeah, she thinks they're old, though. That's the funny part. We all think they're new. She's like, yeah, if she got an old one, she'd be like, this thing doesn't go. We all know how that goes.
Rest in mind.
Yeah, R9G. So that car probably has 23,000 miles on it. So I did drive it quite a bit and obviously lowered it. Different intake, 456 rear end. Of course, I had to modify it. So cool car, fun one to take out and blast around. R9G underneath. This is a car that just has no miles. So R9G was after the Challenge series, and they created 23 of these cars. They were meant to be race cars, gutted, and then put race seats, race motor, you know, different brakes, different wheels. This car was obviously unmolested and just kept the way it was from the factory. So the R9G is just a simple code in the actual console. Greg, you know about these, don't you? 69 Corvette above was the first Corvette that my dad ever bought new, and he ended up selling this car, saying that he never would, but he did sell it, and then he ended up buying it back. I think it was 12 years later. There's a little sign somewhere. I think they might have taken it. Yeah, they did, my cheating board. But anyway, he bought the car back and it had it was out in California at the time, and it had an extra 40 miles on it or something. It was crazy. So the person just preserved it, kept it nice, and then he bought it back. So, and it's the only Corvette we ever named. His name's George. And why my sister named it, I have no idea. So yeah, my oldest sister named it George. So it just stuck. So that's George. Another Ford GT. I recently took this one on trade. I traded an L88 Corvette, a 69 all original blue car, really nice car, and ended up with this and some other stuff. So I like Ford GTs, what can I say? Which I got to do a Ford tour as well, which was pretty cool. But it was a bunch of kids. It was pretty neat. But the funny thing is, I think they all like Corvettes more by the end of it. Because I'm talking about everything still. Another R9G, so I won't waste your time on that. That's the same as that one over there. This is actually my sister's car, I think.
It is. It says Jen's R9G on the back.
Yeah. And this is a 69 L88 Tony DiLorenzo car. This was actually a race car. So they took, Tony DiLorenzo, old-time racer, just legendary racer, great guy, good friend of mine actually. I just saw him last weekend in Detroit. But anyway, he ordered this thing because his dad was in marketing division of Chevrolet. So he had the pull, and he also raced at the time back in the 60s. And he basically could order whatever he wanted, so he decided, I'm gonna get a black, L88, which is probably the worst example you could ever have. Obviously, there's no air conditioning, there's no radio, big motor, things clunky, tons of horsepower, as we all know, but just a cool car. So this one, I'm actually gonna list it on Bring a Trailer here. Actually, it's coming up very soon. So that one will be out momentarily, I would think. In fact, that's why I was taking the top down, because the other day I couldn't get the stupid top down to save my life. So the guy that you guys saw was the guy that I actually traded the car, so that's where it came from. So a neat car. But ironically, the car, after he ordered it this way, his friend persuaded him into selling it like a year after, not even a year. And the guy took it over to, I think it was somewhere in Europe, I forget where, but he ended up racing this car over and over. And it was more like gentleman driver, not like professional. But the car was a full-fledged race car, and then it came back to the States, and then the gentleman took it back to the way Tony DiLorenzo ordered it. I don't know what I would have done. What would you guys do? Would you leave it a race car? Or?
Did it have Cajun?
It did, yeah. I personally probably would have kept it a race car for me, but this guy decided I want to make it exactly the way Tony ordered it, and that's how it is.
So that's value.
What's that?
That's of value.
Yeah, no,
And
that's
car that Tony D.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of neat in that sense. And it's tough though, because you know he had to spend a lot of money to get it restored. So it's interesting.
Yep.
But yeah, just pretty car. We love that car.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have power windows?
Are you serious? These things are right here. I'll show you the. Right here's the power.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
there's no power or anything in these
There's
things.
no bag there for your maps.
Yeah. No, this thing is bare bones. Yeah, LED was just it's a race car. I mean that's all they were.
Yeah.
They always said the LED 9 Corvette had higher horsepower because they wanted to entice the
Yeah.
general public into thinking that's the best one. Well, reality is this was the highest horsepower by far.
Right.
And you know these things are little monsters.
And the best pressure pipe.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah. So the next garage over here. Do you guys have any questions for you yet?
Have the local police let you take either one of these down Carlisle Main Street?
Would they let me?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty easy going as long as I have like an escort. Yeah. I've had some
That's
pretty
gonna be
crazy
pretty
cars
cool watching
downtown.
this roll back the street. Carl.
Yeah. As long as there's no speed bumps, I'm cool. They're a little low. So out here we've got see, we got more Ford. Chevy.
Chevy.
It's the one on Brigham Trail right now, right?
It is, yeah. This is actually on Bring a Trailer right now. This was the guy traded me that car and this car, so I ended up with this as well. This is a Baldwin Motion. This is one of 7. It's the only automatic Baldwin Motion they ever produced. The attention to detail and his restoration is just unbelievable. It's a super nice car. It's as you can tell, the attention to detail certainly wasn't missed there. But really nice car. This thing drives awesome. Really fun car to drive. I was surprised. Like usually you get a car that's restored, it's just kind of, I don't know, not well put together. This thing is very tight. Above it is a 64 Cobra, a little 289. We've had that in our family since the late 70s. My dad found that in New York, Pennsylvania, way back in the day.
Huh.
And I just love this car. I have a lot of great memories of my dad like smashing my head down, telling me to stay low because I was on his best friend's lap. Actually, Ken Heckard, right? And he's pushing me down because the police were right there. So it's just cool stories like that, you know, that you latch on to. So neat car, real low mile car, all original. We always had a token Ferrari in our garage, and my dad always loved like Magnum PI and that type of stuff. So it's a little 328 GTB. And I have a small garage in Ocean City where I live, so I'm always looking for little cars, so hence the 135 out there. And I have a little 1M here that I thought would fit great, and it fits perfect, but I watched my daughter pull her bike right by it, and it has like no miles on it. I was like, oh! I just couldn't do it, so now it resides in the garage, so here. But it's a great car. I love those little cars. That was a 1 year only, 2011 they built them. They're just something different, you know? And it's a pretty neat story because they used up like all the M3 components, that type of stuff, and slapped it together on this little 135 basically. And
What's that color called? That's pretty cool.
Valencia orange.
Wow.
Yeah, it's different. It's crazy in the sun. It's really bright. It pops. But
Did they only put that color on that one model car? Or did
no,
they-
well they had 3 colors: black, white, and the orange. Yeah, and like I said, it was 1 year only built. Pretty neat. So I like the little rarity things and the stories. But so that's it. That concludes our wonderful. If you guys have any questions or if you just want to look around, take pictures, feel free. Easy going. Yeah. Your dad also.